Welcome to another presentation in the Quantum Human Summit series, expanding your multi-dimensional awareness. And in today's program, we are meeting with Roger Burnley, who absolutely has expanded multi-dimensional awareness. He is a channel, and he works with people on our planet to bring us into our mastery and to make the world a better place and develop all of our skills into such beauty. This is our planetary ascension, how we are manifesting our new world. Hi, Roger. Thank you for being here.
Lauren, thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. You're just helping me to kind of illuminate all of this information. So I can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
You do incredible work. You help your clients unlock their full potential. And I know something about you that I heard recently. You've worked with some pretty famous people,
Yeah.
one of which is Macy Gray. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Wow. This is amazing. So how did you get into this?
Okay. It's such a really crazy story, but I know we have a little bit of time, so I'm going to give you as much as I can. Now, Macy Gray, I'm glad you started there because, and I want everyone to understand this, we never know who we're going to become when we come into this world. It's a process that we're all moving through in terms of understanding our unique blueprint and our unique plan. When I met Macy in probably 1989, that's how this goes back. I had started coaching in 1988. I'd started doing vocal coaching. Now, this was something, again, that was so weird because I never thought I was going to do that. I said, I can't do that. I had all these problems with my voice. I had, and didn't make sense to me. I was told when I was a kid there was something wrong with it. And so these ideas were in my head forever. And when I got to, there's just really, we think that we have these freak accidents, but they're never that. We just figure them out later. I'm calling around, I'm working at some job and don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm calling around vocal coaches because we were doing some survey or something. And I reached Seth Riggs, who at the time was the vocal coach to the stars. Any famous person that you can think of, he coached them. And so when I got him on the phone, I thought, oh, wow, this, I know who you are. And then he thought I was calling about coming in for a voice lesson. I go, no, I'm nothing. I couldn't possibly do that. But because he thought that, I said, okay, well, I guess I'll go in and see what happens. And then I started working with him. And I did that for a while. And then when I first went in, he said something so distressing to me. He said, oh, well, yeah, you've been singing with about 60% of your voice. How's that? I have it all. Why am I not doing that? Didn't understand any of this. And he's showing me techniques and doing things. And all of a sudden I go, oh, he was right. And I learned something. But then we got to a place where he says, now you need to go and coach. I said, I couldn't do that because wait a minute, I'm this terrible kid. I've always known I was. He goes, no. He goes, what you will do? He goes, I learned all of my information from my coach in New York. I took all of that and then I put my stamp on it and then I give it back to others. He goes, you're supposed to do the same thing. And Lauren, I didn't understand what he was saying at that time, but then it made sense. We all come in and we learn something and we give it back to others, and then that's how we evolve. We evolve ourselves that way, and then we give it to others. And him saying those words to me, like you'll be better. He said, "You'll be better than me one day." And then it took years to figure out we all do that. We take stuff from our parents, we're supposed to make it better. We take stuff from our ancestors, we're supposed to make it better. And we're doing that now in our world. That's really what it comes down to is understanding we're moving through a huge change, which my guides have called a restructuring. Because your world wasn't working the way really well before, which is why you're having wars and hatred and anger and all of that. And so maybe it would be better if you did something a little bit differently. Made no sense to me when I heard that, except I started seeing it show up.
I love that. All right. And so the words that you express are very inspiring because many light workers who watch this program
Mm.
have been feeling mm, hesitant to step out,
Yes,
step forward,
yes,
and then
yes.
feeling the kick in the astral to step out and step forward, but then still doubting what in the world do each of us like, what do I have to share, right?
Hmm.
But what you're saying is it doesn't matter what it
Doesn't matter.
is that we have
Yes,
to share.
that's
We
the
all
thing.
know something, don't we? We all know something,
Yes,
and we have to share it. And that's what you do with your channeling. You know,
yes,
some would say, okay, I can channel now, but what am I supposed to do? We're supposed to
yes,
share that information.
exactly. Now, I'm so glad you said that because I did a channeling session, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I titled it for light workers because what came through was that so many of us would be hesitant right now because we've been used to living in the background. We've been used to hiding out, and we thought we were so strange, and we were like we were the black sheep of the family. Usually, we're all these different things. And then what came through this is so many will get this. What came through in one of the channeling sessions was you will finally understand what it means that the meek shall inherit the earth. That was just because we will hold back because, well, we can't tell our families that we're like coming up to this with this new information or that we're doing all of these kind of occult kind of things. That doesn't make any sense. And my Wilhelm said that's the problem. If your world had more awareness of spirituality into it, it has nothing to do with religion. That's the thing they told me we must move beyond. Religion served its time, but we're in a place now where we have to let go of everything that was dividing us. And that division existed within all of us, where we just disconnected from who we were, disconnected from some part of ourselves, our authentic selves. And so coming back to remembering our worth and value starts to not only change our lives, but changes our world. And that's where the story started to become so unbelievable for me when I started receiving this information because it was very time specific. And that made no sense to me when I first started talking about this because I started, I started automatic writing first, just to let you know. That was in 1988. But the earliest, the written messages that I still have go back to 1989. And I did this every single day where I would sit down and receive information and write it out. And I'm just like, this is crazy that this is happening. And then I didn't know why I was saving them because something said, right, just put, I saved all of these. I always show this folder, this photo that I have of my file cabinet because it was so huge. I mean, 35 years of writings every single day turned out to be a lot of information. So,
Yes, that is beautiful. So let's talk about trust.
mhm,
How you trusted that the information that you were getting was something special.
mhm,
When you do automatic writing and then you look back at what you received, there's
mhm,
something different about that, isn't it?
mhm.
There's
Yes.
something that is not you, it's beyond you. Can you describe how you developed the trust that you weren't crazy, that this
Oh,
was,
Lord, you're
you
saying
know?
no? I always felt that was crazy. That's part of it. When we can accept that aspect of it, or I'll tell you, when I first began, I only did it because I needed some help. I was moving through some big changes in my life, and I just happened to read an article. Now, it wasn't new to me that people did channeling and stuff like that. I just didn't think it was me. I just, I've seen it so much before, but I had been meditating and all of that. But then I did never thought about taking it further. But I read this article from this guy talking about he was in business and he was going through difficulty and he tried this automatic writing thing and somehow he was receiving information that helped his business. I go, what? That's what I need. So tell me something. And so I said, I'm going to try it. And the only thing I did when I did my normal meditation, but I said now what I'm going to do is have paper and pen on the table in case I'm supposed to write something. Who knows what happens? Several days went by. I was doing that, sitting at my dining room table. Nothing happened. I said, okay, well, we'll see. I did my meditation. And then one day it changed. And then I started, it was like I'm hearing something that was different. It was a communication that felt different than what I would normally think. And then the way that I knew that it was something, because it would keep repeating. What would happen was I said, this seems like something, and then I'd start to write, and then it felt as if my hand was just being taken over by the words that were coming through. And it was startling. And then there would be times, oh, you said about how did I know it was different? There would be certain times where I would hear a word, I didn't know how to spell it, and I didn't know what it meant. And then I would hear very clearly, look it up. And
Uh,
it was weird. And so I write it down. Sometimes I'd have to try to spell it phonetically because I didn't know exactly what it was, but I'm hearing it very clearly. I don't, and that's always been the thing. I'm not visual. Some people will see things and do all of that. I don't really do that. I hear and I feel it, and then I began to interpret the words that I was hearing, and that's what I started writing down. And talking about trust, no, that didn't come from a long time. I just want people to understand, because I was, this was the disconnect that I had. I knew that this was helping me because I got to the place where I didn't even want to leave my house unless I had done my writing and my meditation, because I knew it was helping me. But to tell other people about that, that was really uncomfortable. To tell them that this was what was happening. So I tried to hide it. I tried to hide it for 20 years. And the only way that it got exposed at some point is get someone at an office that I had during this time. Someone picked up one of the writings on my desk and read it and said, wow, this really helped me. Where did it come from?
mhm.
Okay, and I had to like kind of admit, well, yeah, it came through me. And then they asked, and I said I do it every day. And then they asked me if I would send them to them. I said, okay, fine. And then a few other people started asking, and I was on all I had back then. This was 2008, I think, yeah. And all I had was AOL. We didn't have all the other things that we have now. And I mean, I guess there were some other things, but I had AOL, and so I just created a little group on there, and I would just send them the messages. And I resisted every step of the way. Somebody else came along and says, I think you need to put this on a website. And then they said, well, I'm not going to do it. And so then they created the website, anyadvicefortoday.com. That name came about like this, and I want people to understand this one. I realized that what was happening, when I first started doing this, it was so great, and I'm receiving all this information. And then I started asking specific questions. Let me write down this question and see what comes up. And then at one point, my guide said, why are you doing that? And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you want more information, but you're trying to control it.
Mm.
Only asking about the stuff that you want to know. Maybe there's more that could come to you. I thought, oh, okay. So then I started writing. Well, every day I changed. I said, okay, I'm not going to ask those specific questions. Tell me what I need to know. Because see, what I'm asking is what I want to know, but there may be other things that I need to know that could be much more helpful. And that's what started coming through.
Wow. So then, as you started helping people, when you work with your clients, are you teaching them to tap into the same wisdom, your higher self, your soul, their intuition? What's going on when you're working with your clients?
That's what I'm doing now. I wasn't doing that before. Because see,
Ah,
what started happening is I would start to notice that things were developing within me when I was doing my vocal clients, because I coached hundreds of people on vocals. And I started to notice that they'd come in and I would have this idea of what they needed. And so I would start doing certain exercises, not knowing why I'm doing these specific exercises, having no conscious awareness why that was happening. And then they would say, okay, now I want to work on this song. And then it was really clear as to why I was guided to do in that session those specific exercises. It craziest thing. And I never talked about it. There's a little video that I did years ago from some of my vocal clients, and I kind of ignored this. And they said, yeah, Roger's really, he kind of feels things before you say them. And then they said, it's kind of woo-hooey. It's kind of weird. And I just ignored it. I said, okay, well, yeah, that's what happens. But I didn't put it together to talk about it in that way. But now I am, because this information is about having more people trust their intuition, trust their guides, trust their higher guidance, because we all have it.
Yes, and that is a big problem for people, or a big issue that people
Mhm,
are trying to develop, is this
mhm,
intuition, or how to be anchored in the heart fully, how
mhm,
to connect with the higher self, how
mhm.
to connect with guides. And so we know that wisdom is within us. The
Yes.
wisdom is within us. And so can you see that world
Mhm,
where everyone is listening to their inner guidance
mhm.
rather than seeking it outside of themselves? That's really what you're helping people do.
Yes. And that's the thing that took me a while to come to accept, but they said that's perfect. And it comes out all the time. They say, you guys don't trust yourself. So you have the perfect teacher, because here's a guy who didn't trust himself, and look at what's come through. And so, but we're at a time now where we're all supposed to, one, acknowledge that we don't trust ourselves, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
in that acknowledgement, we can then say, oh, I don't trust myself because there's so much more that I'm somewhere have access to, and maybe I could go to that place. And this is what is happening in our world now as well, which is why they said the work that I was given was very specific for this time, because our world is shifting, which is why people are a little afraid, why we're feeling uncertain and all of that, because we're going to a whole different place eventually.
Okay, so then you channel a collective.
Yes,
Will is the collective.
yes.
And so what does that collective say about these times that we're going through?
I found this yesterday. I saw it. I published an article last year in the Sedona um, Journal, and it was from Wilhelm. It was a prediction, because they wanted to know what would be happening in 2024. And so Wilhelm said, well, it's going to depend on you.
Uh-huh.
I said, because they said reality is not set in stone. It's created by what the individuals decide to do. And that's all the individuals, and that's your collective consciousness. And collective consciousness changes over time. That's why your world looks different, because you've done more things over the years that you have been in existence. This is all the information that started coming through. But there's certain pivotal moments in human civilization where there are big changes that happen, and those changes are also aligned with changes in the galaxies, in the universe, because it's all energy. But we have challenging time accepting that we are energy, and that's how we're creating our lives and manifesting everything, and then to apply that to the world. One of the messages that came through was this, and now let me try to remember it. It says, um, you are restructuring your world. Oh, no, you will aid in the restructuring of your world in this way. And I go, what does that mean? And it said, and if you have any trouble believing that you were contributing to the creation or the manifestation of your new world, you have uncovered the difficulties you've experienced your entire lives, because you don't understand how powerful you are. That was all of us. And this is what we're coming to now. But then they said, but you're going to have, when I would start doing a channeling session, for instance, this is the thing, Laura, that was so funny. It says, but you're going to have to see the others. And if you hate them, you're not going to be doing your job. I go, what does that mean? It says, well, there are going to be many people who are going to be expressing something quite different than you are. And you're going to like wonder, why are they doing that? You're going to be angry. It's going to bring up all this stuff. And that's because you don't understand that you're seeing them so that you can be inspired to become who you're meant to be. And then that balance will start to shift. And then you start to see your world eventually. They say, well, we know this isn't going to happen tomorrow, but if you start thinking about it in a new way, you will see that it'll come about. And I go, well, that's really interesting. How, why would that happen? Then they started talking about me. This was really interesting because they said I had gone through all of these things that we would be experiencing in the world, and this is why I could bring through this information. They had me, I was writing about racism about myself, and people thought, why are you doing that? That doesn't even make sense. You see, they're looking at a black man, go, why are you talking about your race? Because it was my racism. And Wilhelm says, when all of you understand that you have it, at some place, it's just in your history somewhere. And then when you can get rid of it, then you start to love yourselves and others. Wouldn't that be a much better way to live?
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
Yes, so it's all so every problem, seeming problem that's out there is something within ourselves.
yeah. And so, and it's always this, and so, but it's this process of this expansion. When we talk about ascension, okay, I'm going to tell this story because I want people to understand. I had someone who came to stay with me for a while. This is many years ago. And he's a young guy and he's talking about ascension. I go, wow, that's interesting. I hadn't heard of that, hadn't thought about it. And I thought, I kind of heard about it in other realms and all. And then he started introducing me to YouTube channels where this guy was talking about this. I became mesmerized and I'm listening to this guy's channel all the time. And then a couple years later, I said, oh, wait a minute. I go into my writings, my Wilhelm writings, and saw in 2013, they told me about Ascension. They said, when you think of it, they said, it's moving closer to the light. And you move closer to the light when you become willing to drop the weight that has been holding you down. And the weight would be your past. The weight would be anything that you haven't acknowledged or accepted yet. That's the weight. And so when you can drop all of that, then you start to ascend to this higher state of being. And it says you can think of it literally or practically however you want to, but they're both it's all about the energy, it's the weight. I go, "Oh." It was so challenging to get that into place, but then I started to live it too. So that was the interesting part. Because
Wow.
because when we heal, when we heal ourselves in whatever way, because everyone has something different. Mine was a lot of physical things that I had to go through. Others, it may be emotional, maybe it's spiritual, maybe whatever it is. When we heal individually or choose to do that, which is, self-actualization or our individual ascension process. But when we do that, then we give that energy back to everyone else, but we're also uplifting the energy of the planet.
Yeah,
There,
beautiful.
yeah, there's just so many things in there that have come through. Then the other thing that was so odd when I first became, because I want people to understand, you may wake up to who you are at different times in your life. I'm 73, and so people think, well, you're just understanding now. I go, it doesn't matter. You just wherever you are. They said your chronological age has nothing to do with anything. It's about your soul journey. And so, but it's also that acceptance. It was a message that they gave me, I think it was last week. They say self-acceptance and ascension are the same goals. And that's the thing that was so fat. Oh, that means every person has this role that they're meant to play, and it's always moving to accepting their authentic selves, their why they were created, why they came to Earth, and that is part of their plan. And as they live their physical lives, they're constantly in the state, hopefully, of ascending to a higher state of awareness, and that's self-acceptance. But then they said you have to also understand, and this would come through in several channeling sessions as well, because they would refer to other people, like Carl Jung, for instance, because certain people will discover things about human behavior and give it to everyone else. He talked about shadow work. He talked about archetypes. I mean, different things that we hadn't really considered And now it's the standard of how most people use psychology, for instance, So it's understanding this process that we're all in, except we chose to be alive now. This is the hard part. They said, because it's a really dynamic time on your planet, which means that all of us here now must have something tremendous to offer if we could really do that.
Hallelujah for everyone to step into their authenticity and
Yes.
to let go of all the doubt that we have and the worry that we have, and to
Mhm.
really embrace who we are, that authentic self. And so let's see, how do you connect to your higher self? That is a really important question, because we've always said if all we do is help someone connect to their higher self, we've done our job,
Mhm.
because that is really vital. That's almost the soul level. Would you explain a higher self? Is the higher self the same as a soul, or how would you categorize
I,
those two?
well, they're both. They said you come into the world and you have a soul, and they used to give me an oversoul too. They give me all kinds of different things to think about, and like I say, first of all, you're spiritual beings, you're eternal spiritual beings. We can't. That's sometimes a difficult concept for us to get, but if we think about that, if we've always existed and we come onto the earth plane, which in this lifetime, that means we're doing something different this time. We're doing something specific. They said each lifetime, what happens is you come in and you decide which new things you're going to do. You've experienced so many other things, but now you're deciding what you're going to complete, so to speak, in this particular lifetime. And that completion is just part of your soul journey. That's how, and the way you get there is you have guidance that is your higher self. Everyone has it, but you don't always pay attention. This is why so many people say, if only I had listened to my intuition, if only I had trusted myself. And they said and that's just what, and it's also why hindsight is so valuable, because then we can look back at things and say, oh yeah, I did know that before. But it's a process of developing what you were saying, trust. As we do it enough, you start to trust. When, and I'll say, you asked about how do you hear yourself? Okay, how do you connect to that higher self? In the beginning, um, when I was meditating, that was challenging for me because I was trying to do it all these ways that people told me it was supposed to be done. There were all these rituals and this, that, and the other. And my Wilhelm said, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to bring in something different. And which was the message today. Actually, you said you were meant to be unique. But anyway, because I couldn't do all the other things, I wasn't going to sit in the lotus position. I didn't want to go through all of that. And so Wilhelm says, all you got to do is be quiet. That's the main thing. And it's about quieting our conscious mind, because that's the thing that's running our lives all the time. And most people don't even want to take the time to be quiet, which is why we can allow ourselves to become distracted with every outside thing, because that prevents us from listening. But when we can take the time and listen every day, and then what I found is that there's value in what people talk about, the morning routine or whatever routine. As long as you give yourself a specific time that you're going to connect with who you are, it's really valuable, because now you've introduced a new idea. Oh, wait a minute, I am valuable enough to spend some time being quiet and just being with me. And that is something that a lot of people have difficulty with. And so it's about understanding that process. But what happens over time, okay, now I'm going to give you something else. I want people to understand this. There would be times where I would sit and I'm meditating and I'm waiting for something to come through that I'm going to write. And I thought, this isn't going to happen. Nothing's coming through. And I would get frustrated. And then just before I'm ready to give up, I get a hit of something. And when I say a hit, it's a physical difference. I feel something different happens in my body. Because I'm hearing something, go, oh. And then sometimes I would still sit and wait, and then I would get a signal. It was weird. I would have something move in my body, like And I interpreted that as my guide saying, yes, you have the information, please write. You know, you hear it now. See, that's that momentary doubt that we all experience about, should I do this? Should I do that? I use a story. You'll love this. I use Mel Robbins a lot in some of this story because she wrote the book, The 5 Second Rule,
Yeah.
saying because she discovered that if she like allowed herself to think about something too long, she's not going to do it. She would talk herself out of it. We do that because see, we're being presented with something, this idea, should I do this? But it's in that unknown territory. We've come to fear the unknown. So stepping outside of our comfort zone becomes scary a lot of times. And I lived with that my entire life. I was afraid of everything. That's why I had to write a book on fear to, to talk about it. And that was a challenge.
Well, then this is that's the epitome of what you're doing now, is that because
Mhm,
you overcame your fear, look at what
mhm.
you're doing now and look at the wisdom that you're sharing with the world.
Right,
That's how you became a great contributor to the world
right.
by, yeah,
And I'm supposed to tell everyone that everyone is a great contributor when we figure out what that is. Every single person has it. We inspire one another. One of the things that started coming through when this was a couple of years ago, and I started meeting with people, that my guide said, you're just supposed to offer people confirmation. And I go, what? It doesn't make sense. Goes, yep. You and I thought, okay, and that's what started happening. But then I started noticing we're all doing that. I just watched an interview with Salman Rushdie. I don't know if he's the author, and he who was attacked and had and I mean it was just, and he just released a book called titled Knife.
mhm,
And he wrote it because and they said, why would you do this? It wasn't that, this horrible event that he went through. And he said, well, if I had it, I had to give something back. I had to talk about it. I couldn't just let it sit there. He admitted that it took a while to get there. But when you know that you have survived, you've accomplished something, you've got to talk about it in a way. And that's what he did.
see, that's inspiring for all of us,
Hmm.
because some of us would say, and it's his example of being stabbed and attacked
Yes.
that way, losing an eye is remarkable. I mean, it's horrendous, but it's still inspiring knowing that no matter what each of us are going through, we
Hmm.
tend to judge ourselves so strongly, but that is part of how we can share.
Hmm.
And that story, some of us would say, why would I share that ugly story about
Hmm.
myself?
Hmm.
But you're saying that there's something there for it. There's
Absolutely.
something that helps others. Isn't that amazing?
And sometimes, and this is what my Wilhelm has said, I get called out on it all the time. Says, because you guys will move through things that are so challenging and difficult in your lives, and then you become embarrassed about it, and then you
Yeah.
don't talk about it. What?
No.
That doesn't make sense. You've accomplished something, but it's that built-in shame that
Yes.
we are, and it's in our genes, it's in our DNA. And so, but that's not, my Wilhelm has us look at it a different way because they have us reframe everything. Because see, we only have that shame because we were taught something or believed something that was limiting. And so now we can say, oh, there that thing is again. Let me remember the truth of who I am. And then we can kind of dissipate that shame, and we keep doing it depending on our individual timelines, as you were talking about, because we have them. We have them within our soul's journey, and then we also have them on this plane, on the earth. We have these different timelines we're all moving through. And so this is a big one that we're in.
Well, good on everyone for being here and healing themselves and self-accepting ourselves. That is the ascension journey that we are on. So let's have you bring in Wilhelm
Mhm.
and share a message. Can you share a message on the steps that we can do in our lives to come forward within our authentic power.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much, and we're so pleased to be here. And Lauren, we cannot thank you enough for inviting us here because it is so aligned with this day. We've been giving you all this information about what you would be experiencing during this time. And today was a perfect day, and you had no idea. There's movement that's happening today, and it's being expressed in many different ways. And the energy of all of you that is needed now is to love yourself. And it is so important on this day. And we couldn't be more pleased that we were able to bring this information today. See, we said your world was moving through a restructuring, and you would see events that would be unprecedented to you all because none of you have experienced it. You have not moved through a time in your world like this one. But because of that, you have a wonderful opportunity because, as we've said, you are here creating your new world. You're manifesting that. And you do that by how much you decide to love yourselves. We know that doesn't make sense to many of you because you don't think you're that powerful. But when you think about collective energy, you will understand it more. You're moving through this restructuring, and many of you will make different choices. You will make a choice of either loving yourself or you're going to go into fear. If you go into fear, you're adding a different energy into your world, and then this transition that you're all moving through will be a little more challenging. However, we're saying that you can have a great time. We know that doesn't make sense because you've judged yourself. You think you did everything wrong. You screwed up things. You made all these mistakes. You failed. Well, that was perfect because you accepted those things to move through them, to bring into the world now this great new awareness because you all have it. You just don't always, sometimes you just don't notice it. And we've just been guiding you back to look at who you are and to acknowledge the beauty that is within you. You've each accepted different life paths. Sometimes they look really terrible and tragic and all of that. That's okay when you can move over it because you move over it in your consciousness. And then, as we've said before, your ancestors are watching with curiosity. The reason we've said that because this is the biggest change your world has moved through, and you have brought in all the energies and beliefs and ideas from your ancestors and all of your lineage. And so you have done that because you knew that you could do more than they ever did. You could stop wars, you could stop hate, you could stop all of those, and you could make women really equal now because that's also part of this shift. See, we needed to bring in the feminine energy, so you couldn't have picked a better time. And we're speaking about this today because there is a big shift that is happening in the United States. As we've mentioned before, they are the ones who are leading this transition or this restructuring because you've looked at them for so many years as being the leaders, but they've gotten a little off track because they said they wanted equality and all that for all. It was in the Constitution. We've shown you that. However, you haven't lived up to that. We're saying that because it's each of you. You cannot look at another and blame them for the condition of your life or your world because you're all creating it and you're doing it equally. Now, the wonderful thing that you get to decide now is which world you're going to create. And you'll create the one that you want when you decide to love yourself. And just imagine if more did that, how much your world would start to look very different. As we've said before, we know it's not going to happen tomorrow, but if you started today, just imagine where you could be in just a very short period of time. Thank you.
Beautiful. So when we decide to love ourselves, there are some who may not know exactly what that means. What does loving ourselves mean in the light of overcoming belief systems that make us feel guilty or shameful or that we are doing something wrong? It's almost as if there are no rules. There are no rules on this planet, but love. Love ultimately rules. Can you
Yes.
add to this how we love ourselves in the
Yes.
old paradigm or moving away from that old paradigm?
Yes, the old paradigm was about judgment. You've all accepted it. You've accepted judgment and you've made it self-judgment. And then nothing changes when more of you keep doing that because you've learned judgment. You've learned it from all those who came before. You learned it from your ancestors, from your countries, from your religious leaders, from everyone. You learned judgment. And what we wanted you to understand is that love was far more powerful. Yes, you're going to experience judgment because those are the things that you brought into the world with you. Because, and as we've said before, we want you to think of this as dharma, not karma. Many of you feel that you're being punished because you've done all these terrible things in the past. You have no memory of any of that. That's just in your history somewhere. And so you can let go of this karmic debt you think you have to pay when you accept dharma, meaning that dharma, you've accepted some things that might be challenging or difficult for you to move through in this lifetime. But once you do, you never have to experience it again. And now you're in a new higher vibration of your being, and you've caused your world to reach that place as well. Because as we've said, this is a collective experience that you're all moving through. But you're going to see the judgments that are going to come up. You're going to see the hatred. You're going to see the racial divisions. You're going to see all of that. And you're moving through it now. And this is why we don't want you to be too concerned about what's happening with the women right now, because they are going to become more empowered as this time moves on, especially during this year. Because you're looking at the United States and you're saying, why are they doing all these crazy things with women? It's because it's about control that has gone on for eons that you wanted to shift. Because you can't have a world that sustains itself unless you create more balance. And the balance that's occurring now, which is why we've called it a restructuring, is to bring more of that feminine energy into. See, if the men would accept that part of themselves, that they have this feminine aspect, you all do. You're both male and female energies, but you just have to find that balance within your life this time, whatever, because it's been a little off balance wherever you have been. But the more of you who find that, you start to see things change. You'll start to see women being more accepted because you're accepting yourself. You cannot look at another with judgment without judging yourself. That is a concept that takes a while for your civilization to understand because you're all trying to get back to oneness, but you can see that's a long journey. But if you do more now, wow, you have a really great life and you will help create a different world.
Yes, thank you for that. Let's talk about dimensions. What you're talking about
Mm-hmm,
seems like we're moving into the fifth dimension or the
mm-hmm,
new world where
mm-hmm,
there is no judgment in the
mm-hmm.
fifth dimension. What do you know about the dimensional shift? Is that part of this restructuring that you're talking
Yes.
about?
That is exactly it. That's all of it. Because see, you thought that you had some of your concepts are really great, and you just get them early, or some of you get them early and you don't understand them. Because back in the 70s, you had the age of Aquarius. It became very big. In the age of Aquarius, you thought that was when it was all changing, but it wasn't then. It was now. And now you can kind of put it together because you can look at the configurations of your planets and you can see that you're moving into the age of Aquarius. That's what's happening right now, except everyone doesn't want to go there, you see, because many of you want to stay where you are because that's familiar. The struggles that you're witnessing in your world now are between those who want to keep things or as they are right now, or to go back to what it was because you think it was much better back then. Nothing was ever better back then. It's always a progression that you move through. But because you simultaneously fear the unknown, you want to hold yourselves back individually and then collectively. We're just encouraging you to take the next step in your dimension, meaning your step in consciousness to a higher level. You each have that. Doesn't matter where you are. You can always have the ability to move to the higher level of your life and your experience. And then as you do that, you give that back to others. We will say this again, and we know that it's challenging to understand this, but we ask all of you to just touch yourselves. Just put your hand on your body anywhere and ask yourself, why would you be any less than any other human on the planet? You're not. You've just told yourself something different. That's all. So don't worry because you have an individual path that's coming alive now. That's why you decided to exist during this period. Even though it looks a little crazy, we know that you're going to come out of it so happy, so in love with yourself, and understanding that you helped to accomplish something that no one thought could be accomplished, and that was creating a better world. And so when you can decide that you're going to create that within your life, you'll start to see it manifest in your world.
As we move through this decade of the
Mhm,
20s,
mhm.
do you see any additional challenges, and what can you offer us for
Mm.
encouragement?
Again, you are so wonderful because you had no idea how valuable it was to do this now. Because, yes, there are going to be some challenges, and some of them are going to look a little frightening and a little scary. So, we wanted you to understand what was occurring. You're bringing up all the old stuff. You're having a reckoning, meaning not living up to the potential that you could have individually and that you could have as a world. And so that's why you're moving through this. You cannot change anything that you are unwilling to see if you can't look at it. This is why many of you do not like to do your shadow work, meaning looking at them in the mirror and seeing the things that you've put on yourself. When you speak of self-love, we have told you that you experience self-love when you stop your self-judgment. Now, the self-judgment's going to come up because you'll discover something about yourself and you say, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I know that? I should have. None of that matters because, see, you've gained awareness now. And awareness through your experiences is what you each wanted to have so that you could ascend to the higher state of who you are. And then collectively, your world does the same thing. It's no one person who's creating or manifesting anything. It's just that over time, you have given that power to others. We have told you, and the one concept that we want more of you to understand with the information we've brought through is this: there's no hierarchy of souls. Just understand that there's no hierarchy of souls. You've just caused it to believe that because in your thinking you have been taught inadequacy. You learned inadequacy. None of you are that way. You're born these magnificent beings, but because of the life paths you've had some challenges. You've had things that have held you back. But that's also brilliant because you are in this physical life experience in this physical body now to transcend those things. And the more of you who do that, not only will you have this really great life that you've always wanted because it's within you, but you will contribute to that life being seen and manifested and expressed in your world.
Wow. So as we look out at our world and we see the craziness that we are
Yes,
recognizing,
yes,
and we see when we look at a war and countries at war with each
yes,
other, it's almost as if some of us want to go and assist on a level that says,
yes,
what do you need to know? What do you need to make you feel loved and respected?
yes.
How can we do, that seems like a tall order,
It's
but
yes, so we've given you that. We've told you that before. We've said it repeatedly. You don't have to go to those places and do anything. You don't, it's energy. Your entire universe is energy. Your world is energy. Your planet Earth is energy. And you shift everything when you decide to put energy into the ethers that's of light and love. So you don't need to go anywhere. You just need to do it right where you are. And the more of you who do that collectively, then that permeates there. 2 years ago, we gave you something that none of you could understand. We said, if you were to just focus in this moment on sending love to Ukraine, you would probably stop a few things. You would probably make it go a little bit better. Now, many of you did that because what was expected to happen there didn't happen because they thought, well, they're going to go in and just take over and it's going to be over. That didn't happen because we said if you put more energy into that, then it would stop it. However, many of you stopped because it's still going on. You see, it's not done yet because that love has not been amplified through you and it couldn't be seen in the rest of your world. And this is why you're having more wars. Now, we don't want you to have this judgment. We don't want you to have any regret. Our messenger has had so much regret because he will wake up and he'll see things happening in your world and he says, oh no, I knew this. And why didn't I tell them before? Each of you will have that. You will have these feelings of regret. Please let it go because it's not about the regret. It's about what do I do now? And every instance when we say, what do you do now? Take the next step in understanding who you are. Take the next step in loving yourself, letting go of the old judgments, letting go of some terrible thing you've been telling yourself for years and years and years about how you're not worthy, or the imposter syndrome. We keep speaking on that because so many of you have that idea that somehow you are not the person to do something that's placed in front of you. You would never have the idea or the vision of what you were meant to do unless you were meant to fulfill it. Yes, it may take you some time. Yes, you may doubt yourself, and you may fail many times. Doesn't mean you're not supposed to do it. It means that it's a part of your journey, that if you decide to move through it and figure out where it's trying to lead you, then you're going to have this great life, and you'll help heal your world, and you'll start ending the wars. We told you that the thing that's also occurring, which we said many, many times, the thing in Israel and Gaza, that's been going on for centuries. It's grievances. You all have them. And so, what we wanted you to understand, if you recognize the grievances that you've been carrying that are generational, that are just within you, if you recognize those first and decide that you're going to move beyond them, you can inspire so many others to do the same thing, and you will inspire your world to do that. Because you are all that powerful. We just keep telling you that to get you to believe how great you are. And we've said that what your story, each of you, we've given you a message on this. We gave it back to you in 2012. We said your story is unique and valuable because no other soul shares precisely your story. That's for each of you.
So inspiring. Thank you so much for that. What do we do now? We be love and light. I
Yes.
cannot say that enough, and you say it all the time. Thank you for that. Let go of our judgment. Thank you. So, unlocking our true potential. This would be my final question. Anything else you'd like to add on how we unlock our true potential?
First, by believing that it's there. We want you to understand there's a barrier there. And we've used this quite a bit, and this will be the wonderful way to end to this, what we want to give you. You all have what we call cognitive dissonance, where your world has created that term. So we love it because it explains on what you're moving through now. What we say is you've heard things your entire life. You've heard from the time you were born of what you could become and what you could do and this potential and all of that, but then you'll hear it. And because it's outside of your realm of what you have experienced, you say, no, that's not possible. You see, that's your cognitive dissonance. And then you'll start to believe something else. You'll start to believe you're weak. You'll start to believe that you don't matter. You start to believe that you don't have talent. You don't have gifts. That's never true for any human. You are all born to offer something. But it's when you can't believe that that is you that causes the difficulty. But also understand it is a part of your journey. This is why we've said that we talk about our work as being an ascension guide, because we want you to understand you don't get there individually all at once. That would be no fun. You wouldn't have an adventure in your life. And your world doesn't do that either. But you must understand, if you're having some resistance to accepting yourself, understand that's going on in your world. So it takes this collective effort for more of you to start to say, wait a minute, I'm going to start to love myself, and I'm going to do that every single day. We say this because you will put pressure on yourself to get it done, and that never works. It's about understanding that you progress daily. And if you keep doing that, you'll start to see this loving person that you are and the empowered person that you can become. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilhelm, the collective. Very inspiring. Thank you. And steady as she goes is what I'd like to say there. One foot in front of the other, and it all comes back to love. It all
Yes.
comes back to love.
Yes.
You know, when we raised our hand to incarnate in this life, we raised it high to say, that's a no-brainer. We got this.
Yes.
So thank you for helping us remember that. It really feels so warm and rich. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. This is wonderful.
And so, wow, I want to have you share your special offer. For those watching and listening, scroll down on this webpage and you're going to find a beautiful package from our guest today, Roger. It is your last development program. Unlock your soul's blueprint. This is your life's operating instructions. Now, thank you for this. This is a big discount that you're offering for our audience. This is
Yes,
normally a $2,500 package.
yes.
And wow. Tell us what we can expect in this package.
In the package, it's 31. When we begin, it's 31 sections. That's where they begin. And these 31 lessons that they do. And those lessons are me giving them information that I received from Wilhelm, talking about what I experienced, how I interpreted it, but then they use it to go in and interpret it for themselves. And this magical thing starts to happen, which blew me away. They start making these connections and figuring things out and moving through this trauma. Sometimes they get stuck too, because they're so deep, some of them, that you have to go, wait a minute, I can't deal with this one. But then they come back and they finish. And anyone who has finished the 31 days, they never see themselves the same way again. They're just changed. You can't, because you're understanding things that you couldn't have before. It's about reframing everything you thought about yourself. Because see, the program takes them back to their past, and because that's where we find the gems. That's where we find the things that have held you back. But also, you find these things, these talents that you missed, that you put away, that you doubted. It's truly wonderful experience. Then what we do is we have weekly group calls. Those are wonderful because when we come together, we're talking about stuff. If anybody's stuck or whatever they're working on, we can help move it through. The purpose of this is to get people unstuck from wherever they are and to live a really prosperous life. Everyone has a career they create if they let go of the judgments or the barriers. Everyone has some talent they could develop if they move through the judgment that prevented them from doing it. So it's and understanding that it is a process. And when we see others doing it and we're experiencing it together, it becomes exponential. It just grows that much quicker. So that's what's going to be there. Then I'm also, the reason it's that price now, because eventually it's going much more, because I'm adding another section on relationships and also money, because they're all connected.
Yes, well, this is a deep dive into ourselves. What a
Mhm.
gift, what an investment we can give ourselves to reveal our greatest potential, to unlock our greatest potential, to look at the gifts that we can bring forward. Some people who say, I can't sing, well,
Mhm.
that could be a judgment they have on themselves and accepting
Yes,
other people's judgments, right? But
yes.
then for myself, if I love to sing, but I'm not that good, there's
Mhm.
something there that needs to be uncovered.
Yeah,
And this is what you help people do.
yes.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for this. I want to say for those who are excited about this and you need a little help, there's a 2 payment plan that will help you get access into that, because this is important work. This is soul path work. This is
Mhm.
new earth work. This is stepping into empowered times and making it happen
Mhm.
and being free, right? This is really about freedom,
Yes,
freedom to
yes,
be here, to be
yes,
us, and to be beautiful in our world and radiant and to
yes,
share our wisdom with everyone. Yes.
yes, absolutely, Lord. I can't, you said, this is so cool. You've said all the things that we all needed to hear today. I can't thank you enough.
Wow. Well, the wisdom that you and Wilhelm bring through is really, again, heartwarming.
Mm.
And it's just, it's this, it's, do I
Oh,
want to say a no nonsense reminder?
yes,
It's
but I want to say something.
cool.
Yes, you talked about dimensions. I want to say this. I'll hear this later because I don't remember I don't have a memory of what came through. So I don't know.
Okay.
And
Wow.
And so I want people to understand that when I'm doing a channeling, I'm in a different dimension. And I want to encourage people that, and part of what I'm going to be doing in this program is giving people more opportunities to practice that and use this as well. Because
Wow.
it took me a while to become comfortable, because I would do a channeling session and then I'd have to listen to it later to see what actually came through. So anyway, I'm just saying that because I want people to understand we do have different dimensions of consciousness that we can access. And sometimes it just takes us a while, sometimes maybe, but we can do it, and we can get this place of feeling we have this guidance, we have something else, we feel much more secure.
Absolutely. Thank you for being such an incredible guide for so many. I know there's you've got this whole tribe of people who
Mhm.
really want this guidance, and it comes at a very timely manner. And it's you are a facilitator for their
Yes,
guidance. You're a
yes.
facilitator for them to step into who they are, and that is what makes it so good. We all want to step into more of our power and be empowered.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that was the one message that Wilhelm wanted me to bring through. I'm the messenger. I'm the facilitator. I'm not the guru. I am just bringing in this information because I know that other people will probably do so much more with this information and create. That's how it's supposed to work. And so I want people to understand no matter where you are, you have this ability as well.
See, again, that is so empowering, and you are making all of us shiny orbs on planet Earth.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I wanted to
Thank you.
ask Wilhelm, where does the collective Wilhelm come from? Are they archangels? What are you aware of?
Okay, let me explain this, and I'll just explain it as Roger because I didn't know at first. Let me just tell you. When I first started doing this, and this is 1989, 88, 89, I guess, when this part happened. And I said, when it first started coming through, I said, it startled me. And I said, who's speaking to me? And then I heard very clearly, we are another part of you, your higher self. But if that makes you uncomfortable, you can call us whatever name you like. And Wilhelm blurted out of my mouth. I didn't know where that came from. It took 30 years for me to figure that out. It's just when you're talking about timelines, I want people to understand this because, see, I did that in 1988, and then I'm saying, oh, I was led back to other things in strange ways. They led me to Goethe, the philosopher Goethe, and so the writer author, and I'm thinking, why Goethe? And then they said, you lived on a street in Chicago named Goethe. You didn't even know how to pronounce the name. And I say, yeah, and I never looked it up. And then later on, I started doing this test, the Myers-Briggs personality test, and I came up that I was this INFJ, an advocate. So that's odd. And so then they showed on the test that one of the people with that archetype was Goethe. Then I went and I started looking up Goethe because I didn't even do this for I never thought about doing it. He wrote Wilhelm Meister, The Search for Self-Actualization. I had no conscious awareness. They said, but no, but it goes beyond that. They started taking me to other people, to showing me this name of Wilhelm in Friedrich and Nietzsche. They said, look at that. And all these places, they said there's a connection to that name. And then I said, because it's a collective consciousness, they said, I just brought through these people in this way. Everyone will connect to something that has been before because we all have infinite intelligence. We just will access certain parts of it. That's how. So, but it took forever for that to be explained why Wilhelm came about.
Wow. Okay. Well, then thank you for awakening all of us to our heart's desires and
Yes.
giving us the inspiration that we have great potential. When I wrote this note, I asked Wilhelm, how do we unlock our true potential? And Wilhelm said, first, realize it's there.
Oh,
That right there, just I mean, take that to heart because
oh, good. Yeah, that's good.
that's a big nugget to unpack. And
Yes.
you know what? I want everyone to write that down on a sticky note. Realize
Yeah.
your true potential,
Yes.
recognize it's there, realize it's there.
Mhm.
Wow, beautiful. Okay. Roger, thank you for being such an incredible guide and doing this work and stepping into your truth. It really is wonderful how you're showing us through your living example how we need to really stop all the worry and the judgment and why
Mhm.
we give so much 120% confidence in our worry instead of the
Mhm.
other way around. It's time to
Yes.
flip that. And you and Wilhelm are teaching us and guiding us how to do that. Thank you. Any final
Good.
thoughts as we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you because no, we're going to create great stuff, and I'm just so grateful that this awareness, more information is getting out there. So the more we spread it, the better. So thank you again.
And I do have one last question.
Oh,
As you see the new Earth,
mhm.
what do you see New Earth as?
As a place where we start to recognize the importance of ourselves and others much more vibrantly, let's say, where we start to see in a completely different way, because it keeps coming through. Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult because we have to move through all this other stuff, but that was the point of this. We're going to see it, but we can't go into the drama of it. We have to go into the love of who we are becoming.
That is beautiful. And that's why every light worker watching gets that 111%. Thank you all for watching. And Roger, thank you so much for this
Thank you.
beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Yes. All right, Laura. Thank you. See you soon.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.